Okay, my story is about an update on the program of blending gasoline with ethanol. And so the EPA is currently proposing an expansion of that program, and it proposes to enable 15% of ethanol in gasoline year round. Currently, it's restricted to 8 months, and in particularly, it's not allowed in the summer season. And the reason is that ethanol blended into gasoline will produce more ozone, which is particularly problematic in summer, or is alleged to be problematic. And so the ethanol production currently makes up about 40% of the American corn farmers' produce, and thus it has some political thrust, combining the green renewable fuel alternative narrative with politically powerful agricultural interests, of course. And I think this is generally a step away from energy freedom. And of course, refiners and fuel producers are opposing it. It makes it more costly. They have to buy these renewable identification numbers, which is essentially a green credit tag to the ethanol, and then they have to show that they have blended sufficient ethanol into their gasoline to be on the market. And yeah, I think that's a very bad development. And this is coming from the Trump administration, which shows just how powerful the interest behind this is.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see. Well, I hope we don't get to see how this relates to Green New Deal because I hope Green New Deal gets destroyed. But it's one thing I want us to do is I really want good data on it, and it's going to have to be ranges of things, but I really want good data on the emissions profiles of all the different processes for generating energy because there's just there's so much wrong stuff out there. And just the view that, oh, buying a battery car is going to reduce your emissions in some substantial way. That's wrong in so many ways. And yet there's just this oversimplification where people say, oh yeah, well, as long as I use something that's labeled renewable or green, then I'm not generating any CO2. And that's bad. That's bad because it's dishonest. And if you actually wanted to reduce CO2, it would be bad. So as I'm working on the section of my book on CO2, I'm starting to think, oh, I really need to know what's the CO2 profile of these other forms of energy. I mean, we know that there's a different CO2 profile of gas versus coal, although then with gas, there's concern about methane. And so how does that factor in? But I really want to know something like how much do the unreliables emit at different kinds of concentrations, and having that information could be very, very valuable, and it could help change this debate from this angel versus devil. It's not even a debate, but angel versus devil narrative that exists where, okay, you're using this one thing and then you're an angel, and you use this other thing and you're a devil, versus no, we look at the full impact of all the different sources. So that's something to get started working on. And of course, we can talk more about that internally and then share our findings. One final idea on that I got from a listener, or at least someone who's familiar with our work, a year or two ago. He said that we should have a metric of CO2 emissions that was relatable, and he suggested. Actually, maybe I won't give the exact suggestion because maybe we'll do it. But he basically suggested take a prominent emitter of CO2 and then make the metric in their term. So I'll develop this a little more in future weeks and share with you the full idea. But there's something there where we definitely want awareness to exist about the full impact, positive and negative, of using different forms of energy. And it's right now it's so slanted to only look for negative impacts with fossil fuels and nuclear, and only look for positives with solar and wind. And that helps nothing good in the world.